My neighbor brought me over his Samsung 42-inch plasma TV. This is, I think I have a 15-year-old set now. And he's got broken HDMI connectors. Not just one, but two. Both of them are broken right off the board. So we're going to rip this one apart and see if we can be able to resolder the connector or whether it's beyond repair. I'm not going to put any new parts into this one. I'm going to try to save what's already there because it's just not worth it to spend money on an old set. This is how I've got a Samsung Plasma TV in. We know what the problem with this one is. This one here has broken ports. HDMI ports are snapped off. So, should be relatively straightforward. We're going to pull the back off this one, pull the board out, and I'll put the board up on the other bench, and we'll see if we can get those HDMI ports going. So, don't need to show you taking the back off. It's just a bunch of screws. This is an older set. The backs come off them quite easy. This set's from, what year is this one from? 2009. So this TV is 14 years old. And this is the first time it's broken down. The problem with the HDMI ports is it's the weight. The weight of the HDMI cables is what does that. They break the solder connections. So let me get this one apart, get the board on the bench, and we'll see what we can do to save it. Well, I don't think I'm going to have much success on this one either, because if you look here, one of them here, the pins, they're broke. Some of the pins are broken right off the back of the connector. The pins are ripped right out off one of the connectors. They're snapped. So the chances of fixing this one are slim to none. The other one maybe stands a chance of being reattached, but this one here, HDMI 1. I might stand a chance of reattaching this one, but it's going to be tricky. This one went on the board just like that. I think there's one missing from this too. There's a pin missing off of this one, so I think probably neither one of these are going to be viable, and the only way to fix this TV would be to try to find a new board for it, unfortunately, and it's a pretty old set. Or it could be used with component inputs, because it does have component. Although the problem is a lot of devices these days do not have component outputs on them anymore, because everything is moved to HDMI. I'm going to attempt to reconnect one HDMI, which is this one right here. The other one is the connector itself is too far damaged, so I'm just going to try to tack this back down to the board, tack down the anchors for this to the board to hold it in place. One of the pins was broken, but I was able to solder a single strand of wire onto it. Hopefully it'll work. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but unless we try, we won't know, right? Solder down the ground terminals that actually hold it down to the board, because that's what it's just held down by solder. Whether the connections themselves, whether the pins are going to be any good, that's what I don't know. But unless I try, there's no way of knowing if it's going to be fixable or not. The guy that owns it's my next door neighbor, and he doesn't want to spend any money on it. He's already bought a new TV, so he was going to give this to somebody else if I could get the HDMI working. So for those of you that sound off saying, oh, you can get those at DigiKey, I'm sure you can, but there's no money in it, so why would I? I'm just going to try to solder this up and see if it will work, and fingers crossed I can get all these connections to connect through. I'd love to be able to show you guys the micro soldering, but I don't think you're going to be able to see much because my head is going to probably be in the way. I'll try to angle this a little more so that maybe you can see, but good chance that you're not going to see what's going on just because of the angle that I have to be at to be able to see what I'm doing. But we'll see whether I can get in here close enough without being in front of the camera. That we'll have to wait and see. I gotta get some lights in here so I can see what I'm doing and get the very, very fine 6040 Kester solder that I use. This stuff here, it's just like a thread. Even at that, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get in close enough to see what I'm doing, because it's a pretty fine work and stuff.
Holy crap, I didn't think I was going to get the shot, because normally I moved the camera further back, but like literally my magnifiers are right about where the soldering iron is. I'm literally about 3 inches from there, and the fact that I'm in there and you can see it, you'll see the micro soldering. Notice the little single strand of wire that's going to a stub that was broken off the back of that connector. So I'm not so sure it's going to work, but we're going to try and get it soldered down. This is a pretty tedious work. I'm going to let it run in real time because I got the whole thing recorded. So enjoy. Yes, there were a couple bridges that I had to take out with solder flux or with solder wick after the fact, because I'm fully aware that a few of them bridged. We're talking pin spacing that's like 0.5 millimeter. Very, very tight to work in this situation like this. Look at the spacing of those traces. That one single strand of wire is actually wider than the spacing of the traces on the board. This is really fine work.
Okay, it ain't pretty, but that's about as good as I think I'm going to get it. So I'm going to put this back in the TV and see whether I get a signal on HDMI. Yay, success. It works. Excellent. No sound because he was going through an external sound system. Okay, I've got a remote control in hand. Audio mode, speaker, internal TV. There we go.
I wanted to check my FICO score, but it does so much more. This thing shows you your FICO score, you can get your credit card recommendations, and it shows you ways to save money.
Do so much more than get your FICO score.
So it works. So excellent. I can put this one back together. I might pull that board again and just beef up the lugs that hold it down.
And diets and exercise add to this.
But all the connections, as you can see, are working, as this is an encrypted feed from the cable box. So if even one was not working, we would not have a picture. But as you can see, everything's looking good. Looks like the brightness is a little bit high on this.
So if you feel like you're getting nowhere, go with 2 doses a year of Leqvio and keep bad cholesterol low.
Christ, with all the side effects of these drugs, you would wonder why anybody would want to take them.
When you're ready to go from struggle to cholesterol success, talk to your doctor.
Yeah, okay.
Twice yearly.
Looking good, looking good.
Lower your cholesterol.
Okay, let's beef up those connections a bit. And in case you guys didn't notice, one of those is actually a wire. I actually had to solder a wire onto a stub that was just sticking out from the end because one of them was snapped off. So there's a wire that's soldered onto the stub on the back of this and it's hooked up. But it works. It works. That's all that matters, is it works. So I'm just putting the bigger heavy duty tip on because I want to apply a liberal amount of solder around the edge to hold this thing in place so it doesn't snap off again. So we're going to give the pins here, the main pins, a good liberal amount of solder and heat. it's just these three anyway. Those are the three that hold it on. I guess the outside wings are here too. Alright, I'll reattach this back into the TV, make sure the TV is working, and then throw it together. Okay, there it is. It's fixed.
Remember why you became a nurse?
You graduate degree. That's how you
There's the
can
board
change this place
reinstalled in the set.
for yourself, your patients, the whole community.
Input, output
You want to
board.
make change happen?
That was the
Walden
control board with
University
the
is
little
all about
flashing light on
change.
there. Power supply. This one's got a much smaller Y sustain board.
Set a course for
And a
change.
single Y buffer board on this one. Right? Y sustain, Y
One of
buffer.
Jesse Valencia's lovers
X
told investigators
sustain or
that
X
Jesse
main.
was also involved with the
Power
police
supply.
officer.
Before I send this one
Jesse's
back,
family confirmed.
unplug the power here. Before I send it back, I'm going to do the standard check all the ground screws to make sure that these are all tight. Because as we know with plasma sets, oh, they've come loose. As we know with plasma sets, the ground screws can come loose and cause board failure. Those ones are tight. But that one was loose. How about this one here? Yeah, that one's come loose too, you see? Power supply over here. Just want to make sure that all these, oh, look at how loose that one was. Just want to make sure all these connections that are used for grounds, and you can generally tell because they usually have a metal lug on them, but you can see how loose that one came. That one's loose too. So we want to tighten, look at how loose these screws are, damn. We want to make sure that all these screws are snugged up, because all it takes is a loose ground screw and you'll get intermittent connection, especially on these sustain boards here, like this one. That one's loose. See how much I can turn that? Watch this one here. Watch how much I can turn it. So we want to make sure that these are tightened up, because this is the #1 cause of failures on plasmas is loose ground screws. So we want to make sure that I just put these ones in, so I haven't tightened these ones up yet, but I'll make sure that they are snug. Anyway, we want to make sure that the ground screws are tight. That's the #1 cause of failure on plasma. It causes chips to blow. Caps sometimes go bad, but these ones were actually pretty good. I haven't seen too many caps fail on these sets, and I got a couple of them. LG had a bunch of cap problems, but usually it's ground screws on these plasma sets that cause boards to go boom. So you want to make sure that you give them all a good, just check the tension on them and make sure that they're tight, especially on the X main, or what they sometimes call the Z sustain, but the X main or the X sustain, the Y main or Y sustain. We want to make sure these ones are tight, and of course the buffer boards. Just make sure that they're not loose, because that causes a lot of these sets to go boom. If you tighten them up, make sure they're not loose, the set will probably never break down until the panel fails, but other than that, they're really quite reliable. Okay, there it is. It's all back together, looking great, as all plasmas do. I love the old plasma. That's what I watch. I have a number of plasmas, and that's what I like watching, because they have a better picture. The real strength to them is you can go off to the side, you can be anywhere in the room, and the picture never changes. Whereas you can't say the same for LCD. I know OLED are, of course, better. They're also expensive. And I'm not convinced that OLED technology has proven itself. Plasma's proven itself. The consumer TV's been out for 23 odd years now, I guess. But the plasma technology was around going back to the late 1960s. They used to use them on monochromatic computer displays. They were orange at the time. They used neon, but they were still using plasma technology. That's how they operated. And they were a very well established, proven technology when televisions came along.
Like LCD. LCD is also a proven technology. Unfortunately, the modern backlights aren't, but the LCD panels themselves are a proven technology. They've been around for many, many years. The new ones, the organic LEDs, they haven't been around nearly as long, so I'm kind of sitting on the fence as far as that goes. I'll keep running my plasma sets until they die. And here's another one that's been saved. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.